Michael Myers asks, Bobby, how should I be recording my guitar DIs? Also, how can I get my guitars to translate and my bass to cut through my mixes better?
Okay, so Mr. Myers here is pretty much asking about recording DIs, having your guitar tone translate onto playback systems like playback systems outside of your studio, and also how to get bass to cut through, meaning bass guitar, to cut through a mix without being too loud or too low. Now, Mr. Myers, the first thing I want to say here when it comes to your DI recording, it seems that you might be overthinking the process just a little. You mentioned having issues with your bass response because of your DI track, but to me that sounds more like a problem with the impulse response you're using. Now, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but it's really true. People often overcomplicate the whole recording DIs thing, but it's actually really simple. I don't care if you're using the cheapest amp sim on earth. If you're using a quality impulse response, your tone will sound just as good as a real amp. I know because I record with tube amps simply for fun all the time. So if you find that you have to constantly be messing with the low end of your guitars and that they're not translating to your stereo systems, it's probably your impulse response. It's not that you're recording your DIs too hot or anything overly complicated like that. It usually at the end of the day ends up being something very, very simple, assuming your performances are tight and everything is well edited. Now, as far as your guitar tones translating properly to other playback system, again, that kind of falls into the category of keeping it simple. If you have a great performance played on a guitar with relatively new strings and everything is nice and tight performance-wise, and you're using an amp sim with a decent impulse response or with a real amp and a proper mic placement on a good sounding cab, your guitar should not sound night and day between different playback systems. Just remember to roll off the super duper low end on a guitar, pretty much anything below 70 hertz and anything above 12K. The extreme lows and highs you don't need on guitar tracks, not even rhythm guitar tracks. Now, as far as helping bass cut through the mix, it's all about a nice mid-range. And my favorite trick in the book is to blend in a bandpass version of my bass DI, slightly distorted, to help my bass cut through in a dense mix and also help my bass be heard a little on smaller speakers. I'll leave a link below to one of my tutorials within this video's description where I show you my favorite technique for getting bass to cut through. Believe me, I know the struggle. When you can't hear your bass, it's tempting to just turn it up, but then when you bring your mix out to your car, your mix is completely muddy. And again, I find the simple trick that I just mentioned really helps in most cases, especially with heavy music. So Michael Myers, thank you for your question. Now, on the topic of guitars, I want to let you know that right now you could have direct access to my guitar production workshop for absolutely free. In this workshop, I talk about crafting a professional guitar tone, how to deal with amp sims, mic placement, my approach to editing guitars for a fully professional result that you hear on your favorite records, and finally, mixing guitars. Again, you could have direct access to this workshop for absolutely free. There's a link below in this video's description if you're interested. And until next time, happy mixing.